Living alone, especially as you grow older, is often painted as the ultimate freedom. You don't have to answer to anyone. You get to wake up when you want, cook what you want, watch what you like, and spend your days exactly how you choose. For many, this chapter of life brings peace, privacy, and a deep sense of independence that was harder to come by during earlier decades, filled with family obligations or career demands. And while all of that is true, there's another side to the story that doesn't get talked about nearly as much. It's the part you don't really hear until you're living it. The quiet moments of solitude that occasionally slide into loneliness. The small risks that, when you're living alone, suddenly feel a little bigger. The practical issues of managing everything on your own, not just the grocery shopping and home maintenance, but also your emotional well-being, your sense of connection, and your personal safety. Over time, I've spent hours reading through forums, support groups, and personal blogs where older adults share what it's really like to live alone. Their insights go far beyond my own experience. These are stories from people who've walked this path for years, people who've discovered the little things no one warned them about. And what I've found is this: it's not all bad. In fact, much of it is empowering, but it's also deeply real. So let's talk about those parts, starting with something essential that often gets overlooked. Number one, you have to be your own emergency backup. This one catches many people by surprise. When you live alone, especially as you get older, you slowly realize that you are your only safety net in the moment. There's no one in the next room to hear you fall, no one noticing if you suddenly go quiet. One Reddit user shared a story about falling in the kitchen and not being able to get up for nearly 2 hours. They were lucky their phone was in reach, but that experience changed everything. From that point on, they started carrying their phone with them everywhere, even into the bathroom. At first, that might seem a little over the top, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. It's not about fear, it's about being smart. If you live in a remote area or don't have close neighbors checking in, wearing a smartwatch with fall detection or investing in a medical alert device can offer a major sense of peace. You don't have to live in fear when you're prepared. One woman on an online forum shared a simple but brilliant tip. She installed an emergency lockbox with a spare house key outside her door. That way, if something ever happened, trusted friends or family could get inside without having to break a window or force entry. It's one of those small preparations that can make all the difference and lets you continue living alone with confidence and control. Number two, loneliness can be a real struggle, even for introverts. Living alone is often seen as the perfect setup for introverts, peaceful, quiet, and free of social pressure. And for the most part, it is a dream. But even the most content, solitary individuals can find themselves struggling with unexpected loneliness as they grow older. It sneaks in quietly, not always as a dramatic feeling of isolation, but as a subtle longing for connection. Many older adults on forums have opened up about how their social circles have gradually shrunk over the years. Friends retire, move away, or pass on. Family dynamics change. The usual rhythm of social interaction slows down, and making new friends becomes a bit more challenging. One elderly gentleman shared that while he deeply valued his independence, there were stretches of time, sometimes days, when he didn't speak to another person. He missed those small, everyday exchanges, a casual comment about the weather, a shared laugh over breakfast, or simply having someone to say goodnight to. It wasn't about needing constant companionship. It was about the comfort of presence, the kind of quiet interaction that grounds your day. For some, the solution has come in the form of pets. Adopting a dog or cat can be incredibly rewarding, not just emotionally but practically too. Pets bring companionship, provide a routine, and give a sense of responsibility that adds structure to the day. One woman in a forum said it best: "My cat doesn't talk, but he's always there when I come home. That makes all the difference." Pets may not replace human connection, but they can fill a meaningful part of that emotional space, especially on days when the silence gets too loud. Number three, keeping up with home maintenance can be overwhelming. Something else that often gets overlooked when talking about living alone as an older adult is the sheer amount of work that goes into maintaining a home. Tasks that once felt simple or even satisfying, like raking leaves, cleaning gutters, or scrubbing the floors, can become draining or even dangerous with age. Energy levels change, bending, lifting, and climbing ladders. Number 3, keeping up with home. Maintenance can be overwhelming. Something else that often gets overlooked when talking about living alone as an older adult is the sheer amount of work that goes into maintaining a home. Tasks that once felt simple or even satisfying, like raking leaves, cleaning gutters, or scrubbing the floors, can become draining or even dangerous with age. Energy levels change. Bending, lifting, and climbing ladders isn't as easy as it used to be. What used to take an hour might now take all day and leave you sore for the next 2. I've come across countless stories of older people who simply let some chores go, not out of laziness, but because they didn't have the stamina anymore. One woman shared how she kept a running list of things she needed to fix around the house, but eventually stopped looking at it. It just made her feel defeated. It wasn't that she didn't care. She was just tired, and doing it all alone was too much. If you're in that place, don't be afraid to ask for help. Hire someone for the heavy lifting, even if it's just once in a while. Let family pitch in if they're able, or consider downsizing. A smaller home can mean fewer chores, less stress, and more time to enjoy your life, not just maintain it. Number 4, your daily routine becomes sacred. And that's okay. One of the most consistent themes in personal stories about living alone in later life is how important daily routines become. When you don't have a partner, roommate, or children to shape your days, your routine becomes the structure that anchors you. It's not just a schedule, it's your rhythm, your comfort, your quiet sense of order. And far from being boring or rigid, this can be incredibly soothing and meaningful. Whether it's a cup of coffee on the porch as the sun rises, an afternoon walk through the neighborhood, or watching your favorite TV show with a cozy blanket in the evening, these small, repeatable habits become deeply personal. They're not just things you do, they become rituals that give your life texture and continuity. One woman in her 70s shared that she starts every morning by playing the same upbeat jazz song while she makes breakfast. She said it helps her feel energized and sets a positive tone for the day, filling the quiet house with something cheerful. Another gentleman talked about how he looks forward to watering his garden every evening. For him, it wasn't just about the plants. It was about stepping outside, feeling the air on his skin, and marking the close of another day. That moment gave him a sense of purpose and peaceful closure. There's something beautiful in that. Don't let anyone make you feel like having a set routine is somehow limiting. For many people who live alone, their routines are not about control, they're about care. They're tiny acts of self-love that remind you the day is yours to shape. These habits give your life rhythm, and in that rhythm, there's comfort, peace, and even joy. Number 5, cooking for one can be tricky, but also rewarding. Cooking when you live alone can feel like a surprisingly complex emotional task. You're no longer feeding a family or preparing meals for 2. You only have yourself to consider, and while that sounds easy, it can lead to some tricky habits. Many older adults report falling into a rut of eating frozen dinners or ordering takeout simply because it seems like too much work to prepare a full meal for one. But cooking for yourself doesn't have to feel like a burden. In fact, it can become one of the most rewarding parts of your day. As one woman shared on a forum, learning to enjoy cooking just for herself changed everything. She began to see it not as a chore, but as a form of self-respect. It was no longer about effort, it was about care. Batch cooking is a popular strategy. Spend a little time on the weekend preparing meals you can enjoy throughout the week. Soups, stews, casseroles. These can be divided into portions and reheated as needed. Others take it further by turning cooking into a creative hobby, experimenting with new flavors and recipes. It becomes an experience, not just a necessity. In the end, cooking for one can be a gentle reminder that you're worth the time, the flavor, and the effort. It's not just about nourishment, it's about honoring yourself. And as a bonus, it's usually healthier and more budget-friendly than relying on quick fixes. Number 6, the quiet can be both a blessing and a curse. One of the most unexpected experiences of living alone, especially as you get older, is the silence. At first, it might seem peaceful. No more noise, no interruptions, no one else's schedule or habits affecting your space. But over time, the silence can begin to feel overwhelming, even unsettling. If you've spent years in a busy household, raised children, or worked in a bustling environment, the sudden stillness can hit harder than you expect. Many older adults on forums talk about this quiet as a kind of emotional weight that creeps in, especially in the evenings. One woman shared that after retiring and moving into her own place, the silence in the early mornings and after dinner felt too loud. She started leaving the radio on while she cleaned or cooked, just to fill the air with background chatter. Another man said he began listening to podcasts throughout the day, not because he was particularly interested in the topics, but because it felt like having someone in the room talking to him. There are practical solutions: soft music, audiobooks, or simply turning on the TV for ambient noise. These little background sounds can make a surprising difference. They don't necessarily solve the issue of loneliness, but they do soften the edges of the silence and bring a sense of life into the room. On the other hand, many people find that the quiet becomes a treasured gift. After years of noise, demands, and shared space, silence offers a rare kind of peace. It's a space for thinking, reflection, and recharging. If you learn to embrace it, the quiet can become your companion instead of your enemy. Number 7, you need to be intentional about physical activity. When you live alone, especially as you grow older, it becomes far too easy to stop moving. Without a spouse, roommate, or even a pet to pull you into daily routines that involve physical motion, the default becomes stillness. Many older adults have admitted that after living alone for a while, they gradually became more sedentary. One man said he didn't even notice how much time he was spending sitting until his body began to ache and stiffen in ways it never had before. The truth is, staying physically active when no one else is around to encourage you takes real effort. It requires intention. No one's going to knock on your door and suggest a walk. No one's reminding you to stretch or get outside. You have to be your own motivator. A simple way to begin is by integrating movement into your daily routine. Start small, set a step goal, stretch when you wake up, or take a walk around the block after dinner. One woman shared that she adopted a dog specifically to force herself to get outside every day. The dog needed to walk, and she did too. Physical activity doesn't have to mean going to the gym. It can be gardening, dancing to your favorite song in the kitchen, or choosing stairs over elevators. These small decisions matter. They keep your body limber, support your mental health, and boost your overall energy. Living alone means you have to create those opportunities for yourself, but the benefits are more than worth it. Number 8, your sense of time may shift in unexpected ways. One of the subtler, often unspoken effects of living alone, especially in your later years, is how it can alter your perception of time. When you no longer have the daily rhythms of a partner's work schedule, children's activities, or even shared meals with others, your internal clock can begin to lose its bearings. Several older adults have shared on forums that time has started to feel strange, either dragging on endlessly or passing without notice. One man commented that after retiring and losing his wife, he often woke up unsure whether it was Wednesday or Saturday. The days blurred together because there were no external cues anchoring them. Without someone else in the house to set plans, remind you of routines, or even talk about the upcoming weekend, each day can begin to look and feel exactly the same. This sense of timelessness isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can feel disorienting. The good news is that you do have the power to reclaim a sense of structure and make it your own. Many people living alone find that keeping a loose but intentional schedule helps bring back that rhythm. For example, you might decide that Mondays are for grocery shopping, Wednesdays for laundry, and Sundays for something you love, like baking or calling family. Others find joy in anchoring their days around hobbies. One woman attends a watercolor class every Thursday, and she said that little act of consistency gives the rest of her week shape. Another man said he gardens in the late afternoons, treating it like an appointment with himself, a way to greet the evening. You might even look forward to simple rituals like Sunday dinners or Friday night movie marathons. The key is not to turn time into a rigid routine, but to enjoy the freedom you have while still offering yourself a bit of consistency. Living alone gives you the chance to own your time rather than chase it, and that's a beautiful kind of autonomy. Number 9, decluttering becomes both easier and harder. When you live alone, The process of decluttering takes on a deeper, more emotional significance. On one hand, it becomes easier. You don't have to negotiate with anyone else about what to keep or discard. There's no debate over whose keepsake matters more or whether something might be useful someday. The decisions are yours alone. But that's also what makes it harder. Every item in your home begins to carry a bit more emotional weight. A mug isn't just a mug. It's the one you used to share coffee with your late partner. A sweater may still carry the scent of a loved one or remind you of a vacation long past. One woman wrote online that she kept boxes of greeting cards from her children, even ones decades old, because she couldn't bear to let go of their handwriting. Yet she also admitted something else. It's just me now. Who does it hurt to keep these things? But sometimes I think, do I really want to leave this all behind for someone else to sort through? That question resonates with many older adults. Decluttering becomes not just a task, but an act of reflection. It's about choosing what still brings you joy and what may now be a burden. One man in his late 60s decided to downsize significantly, not to be minimalist, but to make his life more manageable. He said that clearing out old furniture and boxes gave him a sense of peace and clarity. Decluttering when you're older and living alone is not about stripping your home of history. It's about shaping it to fit who you are now. Start small, one drawer, one closet. Keep the items that still spark warmth. Let go of the ones that simply hold dust and weight. It's not about erasing the past, it's about making space for your present. And remember, this is your space. Shape it in a way that feels comforting, meaningful, and true to who you've become. Number 10. Social invitations may decline, so create your own joy. One unexpected part of growing older and living alone is noticing how social invitations begin to fade. It's not that people forget about you, but life happens. Friends become busy with their own families, careers, or even move away, and as a result, you may find yourself receiving fewer calls or invitations. Many people on forums have shared how this shift left them feeling overlooked or isolated. One woman admitted that she used to sit by the phone waiting for someone to reach out until she realized the importance of being the one to initiate. That realization is key. Don't wait to be invited. Be the one who creates the fun. Whether it's inviting someone for a morning coffee, starting a small book club, or hosting a movie night in your living room, you have the power to design social experiences that reflect what you enjoy. And the best part, you're in charge of the atmosphere and the pace. One man in his 60s shared that he started a Sunday walking group with neighbors. They explored new trails each week, stayed active, and stayed connected. That one simple idea brought more purpose and community into his routine. Living alone gives you the space to curate your own social calendar. If you love crafts, plan a DIY night. Obsessed with a particular show, host a weekly watch party. By reaching out first, you'll often find others happy to join you. They were just waiting for someone else to make the first move. Number 11, self-care can be neglected, but it's essential. When you live alone, especially in later life, it becomes incredibly easy to let self-care fall by the wayside. There's no one around to notice if you've worn the same clothes for days or haven't cooked a real meal all week, and this can lead to a quiet erosion of your well-being. Many older adults have confessed online that they sometimes find themselves thinking, "Who am I doing all this for?" But the answer is simple. You're doing it for you. One man reflected on how he slowly began skipping meals, lounging too long on the couch, and not keeping up with his hygiene. He said it took him a while to remember that he deserved the same care he would offer someone he loved. That shift in mindset made all the difference. Self-care goes far beyond physical upkeep. It includes protecting your mental and emotional health. From regular medical checkups to getting enough rest, or simply doing something joyful each day, it all adds up. One woman shared her evening routine, lighting a candle, putting on a face mask, and reading. These small acts reminded her that she was worth the effort. So dress for the day, even if you're staying in. Cook meals that nourish you. Do things that lift your spirit. Living alone doesn't mean neglecting yourself. It means learning to be your own best caretaker.